What you can do in literature for adults, you can do in literature for children. They'll get it. All right. I'm hungry. Hello everyone, you are watching YouTube. I'm Isaac and this is 10,000 Pretty Good Books, the channel for parents who want to help their small children develop good taste in reading. And it's time for a review of Bread and Jam for Frances, written by Russell Hoban, illustrated by Lillian Hoban, and published by HarperCollins in 1964. The story begins with Frances and her family at the breakfast table. Everyone is enjoying their soft-boiled eggs, except Frances. She sings a little song to her egg and then instead eats bread and jam. She explains to her mother all of the reasons not to eat the various preparations of egg and heads off to school. That evening, her mother has made a lovely dinner of breaded veal cutlets, string beans, and baked potatoes. But Frances once again sings a little song to her plate and helps herself to bread and jam. When her father asks her, "How do you know what you'll like if you never try anything new?" Frances very sensibly responds that there are many different ways that different things can taste, but when she has bread and jam, she always knows what she is getting, and she is always pleased. The next morning, Frances is surprised to see that her mother has not poached her an egg like everyone else, but has instead given her bread and jam. At lunch, at school, after her friend Albert has listed the lavish items that he's taking out of his lunchbox, Frances finds that in her lunchbox is bread and jam. Albert comments how lucky she is, she doesn't have to trade. They eat their lunch, and Frances skips rope a little more disconsolately than she had that morning. When she gets home, her mother has a snack waiting for her, of bread and jam. That night, dinner is spaghetti and meatballs, and everybody is excited. But Frances looks down at her plate only to see a slice of bread and a jar of jam, and begins to cry. Her parents ask her what's wrong. She sings a soft song and politely asks if she can have some spaghetti and meatballs. And the next day at school, Frances has brought a delightful lunch of variety and flavor, and she and Albert exchange brief thoughts on the niceness of eating. Before I get to my commentary, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You know, help me feed my kids. They can't eat books no matter how pretty good they are. Okay, back to the review. This is one of a series of books about Frances the Badger, written and illustrated by husband and wife team Russell and Lillian Hoban. It's not the first in the series, and I would not even say it's the best in the series. That's probably a bargain for Frances, but it's the one that I have the greatest personal attachment to. I was homeschooled for 10 years, but when I was little, I wanted to go to school just so that I could bring and enjoy lunches like Albert and Frances. You know, let's do the second best picture in this book so you can see what I mean. This is Frances's friend Albert, eating his lunch at his desk at school. He has a cream cheese, cucumber, and tomato sandwich on rye bread and a pickle to go with it. He has a hard-boiled egg and a little cardboard shaker of salt to go with that. He has a thermos bottle of milk, a bunch of grapes, and a tangerine, and a cup custard and a spoon to eat it with. I'm going to go ahead and read you the text that accompanies this picture. Albert took 2 napkins from his lunchbox. He tucked one napkin under his chin. He spread the other one on his desk like a tablecloth. He arranged his lunch neatly on the napkin. With his spoon, he cracked the shell of the hard-boiled egg. He peeled away the shell and bit off the end of the egg. He sprinkled salt on the yolk and set the egg down again. He unscrewed his thermos bottle cup and filled it with milk. Then he was ready to eat his lunch. He took a bite of sandwich, a bite of pickle, a bite of hard-boiled egg, and a drink of milk. Then he sprinkled more salt on the egg and went around again. Albert made the sandwich, the pickle, the egg, and the milk come out even. He ate his bunch of grapes and his tangerine. Then he cleared away the crumpled up waxed paper, the eggshell, and the tangerine peel. He set the cup custard in the middle of the napkin on his desk. He took up his spoon and ate up all the custard. Then Albert folded up his napkins and put them away. He put away his cardboard salt shaker and his spoon. He screwed the cup on top of his thermos bottle. He shut his lunchbox, put it back inside his desk, and sighed. "I like to have a good lunch," said Albert. Frances ate her bread and jam and drank her milk. You know how books can give you like a shock of recognition? Yeah, this is the earliest one that I can remember. I used to eat my dinner that way too. I wouldn't eat like all the chicken and then all of the rice and then all of the veggies. I would take bites of everything in turn. And when I read this book, I was astonished that someone else knew how that worked. But it gave me a phrase for this too. You make the food come out even. I remember pretending to set up a lunch like Albert's as a kid. I used an empty spool of thread as the salt shaker, because it looks like one. I also found the civilized description of the process of eating and cleaning up after oneself very interesting. The Hobans somehow make manners look attractive. It helped me understand the difference between feeding and dining. I still never took my elbows off the table, but the point was well made. The contrast between the lingering play-by-play of Albert's meal and the single plain sentence given to Frances, it couldn't be more clear which repast was worthier, more noble, more glorious. The glorious lunch! That was the second best picture. If you want to see the best, you'll have to pick up a copy. On a literary level, this might sound bizarre, this will sound bizarre, but the passage that I read to you operates in a very similar way to the famous Legion of Horribles passage in Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, where there is a single page-length sentence describing the war party coming over the hill with forceful, ornate, feverish language, followed by a blunt 6-word sentence about what the sergeant says when he sees them. What you can do in literature for adults, you can do in literature for children. They'll get it. The only thing that doesn't quite land for me in this book, I don't think that Frances's parents' strategy would actually work for a lot of kids. Maybe some kids would get bored or sick of whatever it is that they were insisting on eating, but some children would be absolutely happy to continue eating chicken nuggets or mac and cheese meal after meal, or whatever, exclusively for years. You know I'm right. We all know an adult like this. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for the sake of the story, but in real life, that kind of parental indulgence of Frances's own expressed wishes until she undergoes the consequence of her choices, it's kind of a pipe dream right out of the failed era of the discovery approach to education, where supposedly kids were going to learn the value of responsible, respectful behavior by experiencing the outcomes of their actions, whether positive or negative. Well, to borrow the Lycurgian witticism, begin that in your own home. But here's what does work, why the book is still effective. When Frances begins to cry over her boring plate of bread and jam while everyone else enjoys spaghetti and meatballs, oh, you feel that as a kid. It's like watching a Greek tragedy, right? Where you experience fear and pity for the tragic hero. You feel sorry for Frances because she did it to herself. She did not know what she really wanted. How many of us do? I highly recommend adding this book to your home library. Fantastic book. The Hobans are keen observers of the thoughts and feelings of children, plus the food descriptions are among the best in children's literature. Please like and subscribe, but more important, if you know young parents of small children on the hunt for pretty good books, share this video with them. You can watch it together over a gourmet sack lunch. If you've read Bread and Jam for Frances yourself, or you're just excited to check it out, let me know in the comments, and also let me know, what should I review next? See you next time.
Hi.
Hi.